Billionaire left EX for model. She came to his dad's funeral in Limo with twins. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you never miss stories that stir your heart and spark deep reflection. Now picture this. A billionaire thought he had it all when he left his longtime love for a dazzling young model. But years later, at his father's funeral, the world froze when that same woman arrived in a stretch limo, carrying two children who looked unmistakably like his own blood. Would you forgive someone who left you behind if they showed up at your lowest point with a shocking secret? Let us know in the comments. The rain came down steady over Atlanta, Georgia, soaking the black umbrellas outside the grand stone chapel. Inside, the air was heavy with incense and the sound of muffled sobs. Ethan Whitmore, a 42-year-old billionaire heir, sat in the front pew with his jaw clenched, staring at the polished oak coffin that held his father, the formidable Charles Whitmore Sr., titan of real estate and old Southern money. Ethan's tailored black suit looked perfect, but inside he was unraveling. He wasn't just burying his father. He was burying the last tether to a family that had raised him with pride and pressure in equal measure. The tabloids would spin their stories, as they always did. To the public, he was the golden son who had inherited an empire. But behind closed doors, he was a man riddled with mistakes. And the greatest mistake, he feared, was one sitting like a ghost in the pews behind him, Amara Johnson. Amara was the woman he had once promised forever to. A nurse when they met, brilliant, compassionate, steady. She had seen Ethan when he was still fighting to prove himself, not when he was flashing headlines. They had shared late-night ramen dinners, whispered dreams of a simple life, and held hands in hospital corridors during his father's first heart attack. She had believed in him. But Ethan hadn't believed in himself. When his star rose in the business world, the vultures circled, money, attention, glittering temptation. That's when Chantel, the statuesque blonde model with a smile sharp enough to cut glass, entered his orbit. Everyone told him she was perfect, for appearances, for image, for building the right kind of legacy. And Ethan, swept by pride and pressure, left Amara for her. He could still see Amara's face that night, the disbelief, the breaking silence, the way her strong shoulders folded as though the world had collapsed on her. He had walked away, thinking he was chasing more. Now Chantel was gone too. She had bled him dry emotionally, cheated on him, and left for a younger tech mogul. And Ethan was left with hollow walls of wealth, no children, and no Amara. As the choir's hymn swelled, Ethan shut his eyes, gripping the order of service so tightly the edges cut into his palm. That was when the stir began. It started as a whisper from the back of the chapel. Heads turned, murmurs rippled. The heavy doors groaned open, letting in a gust of rain and perfume. A sleek black limousine had pulled up outside. And stepping out, dressed in black silk with a grace that made time stop, was Amara. But she wasn't alone. On either side of her, holding her hands, were two small children, a boy and a girl, no older than 6. Twins. Their skin was a warm cocoa glow, their hair coiled into neat curls. But their eyes, icy blue, unmistakable, were Whitmore eyes. Gasps echoed as people craned to see. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. His world tilted. "Dear God," he whispered, his voice breaking. Amara met his gaze across the chapel. Her stare was steady, unreadable, but her chin lifted with a quiet defiance. The twins clung to her, wide-eyed, as though sensing the storm they had just walked into. In that moment, Ethan knew, nothing about this funeral would ever be simple again. If you were in Ethan's shoes, would you have the courage to face Amara, and the truth she carried with her? Comment below what you'd do if your past showed up this way. The chapel had fallen into a stunned silence. Amara's heels clicked softly against the marble floor as she led the twins down the center aisle. Every pair of eyes followed. The choir faltered, their voices trembling, as though even heaven itself was caught off guard by her arrival. Ethan's heart hammered against his ribs. He wanted to rise, to speak, to demand answers, but his legs felt like stone. The twins looked around curiously, too young to understand the weight of whispers that hissed around them. Their small hands gripped Amara's tightly, as if she were the only anchor in a sea of strangers. She didn't stop until she reached the second row, close enough for Ethan to smell her perfume, a soft jasmine that tugged memories from deep within him. She glanced at him, just once. No smile. No anger. Just resolve. Then she bent down to whisper something to the children. The little boy, his tie slightly crooked, nodded seriously. The girl leaned her head against Amara's hip, her tiny hand tracing the seam of her mother's dress. Ethan swallowed hard. He wanted to speak, but his throat burned. Instead, it was Ethan's aunt, a sharp-tongued matriarch with silver hair pinned neatly, who broke the silence. "Ethan," she hissed. "What is the meaning of this?" Her words cut through the chapel like a blade. Ethan finally found his voice, hoarse and trembling. I don't know." But even as he said it, part of him knew. The eyes. Those eyes. They mirrored his own reflection from every childhood photograph. The service continued, but Ethan didn't hear a single word. His mind spiraled. 6 years. Had it really been that long since Amara had disappeared from his life? 6 years since the night he left her standing on their porch with tears streaming down her face? 6 years since she told him, "You'll regret this, Ethan. Not for me, but for the family you're throwing away before it even begins." Family. The word now rang in his ears like a haunting bell. When the final hymn faded, the priest invited everyone to the graveside. Ethan rose slowly, but before he could move, Amara stood in his path. Her voice was calm, even, but beneath it, Ethan heard years of restrained fire. "Hello, Ethan." It was the first time he had heard her voice in years, and it nearly unmade him. "Amara," his lips barely formed the word. "The children." Her chin lifted. "This isn't the place." His chest tightened. She was right, the chapel, filled with curious eyes, was no battleground for their history. But his heart screamed for answers. At the graveside, as the coffin was lowered and dirt struck wood with hollow thuds, Ethan caught glimpses of the twins. The boy leaned into Amara's side, solemn and quiet. The girl fiddled with a ribbon tied around her wrist, her curious gaze darting often to Ethan. Each look pierced him deeper. Finally, after the mourners dispersed to the Whitmore mansion for the reception, Ethan found the courage to approach Amara. He followed her out to the limo, his voice low, desperate. "Amara, wait." She paused, turning to face him. The rain slicked her curls, but she looked radiant, stronger than he remembered. The children waited in the car, their faces pressed to the tinted glass. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "They're mine, aren't they?" Amara's silence spoke louder than words. Her jaw tightened, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You left," she said finally, her voice trembling with restrained fury. "You chose your image, your pride, your model over me. Over us. And when I found out I was pregnant, I realized I couldn't beg a man who walked away from love to come back for responsibility." Ethan staggered back as though her words were blows. "Pregnant, and you didn't tell me?" "You didn't give me the chance," she whispered. "You made your choice." The weight of his past crashed down on him. He had abandoned her for glitter and glass, never knowing that real gold, his own flesh and blood, was growing inside her. "Amara," his voice cracked. "I swear if I had known." Her eyes blazed. "Would you have stayed? Or would you have dragged us into the storm of your arrogance and scandals?" He faltered. Because she was right. Back then the man he was, the man blinded by greed and ego, would have ruined them. But now? Now he was broken enough to finally see what mattered. "I need to know them," he said, almost pleading. "Please, let me be their father." Amara's eyes searched his face, as if weighing every syllable, every crack of sincerity. Then, with a small shake of her head, she whispered, "Fathers aren't made by words, Ethan. They're made by years you can't give back." She turned to leave, but Ethan's hand instinctively reached out, stopping short of touching her arm. "Then give me today," he begged. "Just today. Let me try." The limo door opened. The twins peered out, their innocent eyes blinking curiously at the man who seemed so desperate. Amara looked at them, then back at Ethan. For a moment, the storm of years hovered between them, fragile as glass. Finally, she sighed. "Fine. Today. But only because they deserve to know the truth." And with that, the first door into his lost world creaked open. Backhand index pointing right. If you were Amara, would you let Ethan back into the children's lives after he abandoned you? Or would you protect them from the man who broke your heart? Share your thoughts. I want to hear your take. The Whitmore mansion loomed like a shadowed castle at the edge of the estate, its stone facade lit by lanterns flickering in the rain. Inside, the reception buzzed with muted conversations, clinking glasses, and the hollow comfort of wealth. Ethan stood near the grand staircase, his eyes never leaving the twins as they explored the room under Amara's watchful gaze. They were full of life, laughing softly, marveling at the chandelier, whispering secrets to each other. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something stir in his chest that wasn't guilt or emptiness. He wanted to be part of that laughter. When Amara finally approached the buffet table, Ethan seized the chance. He knelt beside the twins, lowering himself to their level. "Hey there," he said softly. "I'm Ethan." The little girl tilted her head, her curls bouncing. "Mama said you're a friend." A pang shot through him. Friend. He forced a smile. "Yeah. I was a friend of your mom's a long time ago." The boy studied him, his eyes, those Whitmore eyes, narrowing. "Why do you look like me?" The question punched Ethan's breath away. He glanced at Amara, who was watching from across the room, her arms folded tightly. "Well," Ethan said carefully, voice trembling, "maybe it's because we're family." The boy blinked, considering. The girl giggled and leaned closer. "You talk fancy. Like on TV." Ethan laughed for the first time that day, a sound rusty from disuse. "Maybe. But I'd rather talk with you. What's your name?" "Isaiah," the boy answered proudly. "And I'm Imani," the girl chimed in. "Isaiah and Imani," Ethan repeated, letting the names settle into his heart like fragile treasures he had long been denied. They smiled, and for a brief, impossible moment, he felt like he belonged. Later that evening, Amara stepped outside to the covered patio to breathe. The rain had softened into a mist, and the garden smelled of roses and earth. Ethan followed quietly, giving her space before speaking. "They're incredible," he said softly. "You raised them beautifully." Amara turned, her face a mixture of pride and pain. "I raised them alone." The words sliced through him. He deserved the sting. "I know I can't change the past," Ethan whispered. "But I want to try for the future. For them. For you if you'll let me." Her eyes hardened. "You don't get to come back after 6 years of silence and rewrite history. Where were you when Isaiah had his first fever? When Imani cried because she thought the other kids teased her for not having a dad at the Father's Day breakfast? Where were you when I worked double shifts just to keep a roof over their heads?" Ethan's throat closed. He had no defense. "I was a coward," he admitted. "I chose image over love, money over family. And I lost everything that mattered. But Amara, please, let me earn a second chance. Not with you, just with them." Her voice broke for the first time, softer, more vulnerable. "You think it's that easy? That you can just step in and play father?" "I don't know," Ethan said honestly. "But I want to try. Even if they hate me at first. Even if you never forgive me. I want them to know they're not unwanted. Not anymore." Silence fell between them, heavy with years of unsaid words. Amara studied his face, searching for the selfish boy she once knew. But instead she saw something different, regret etched deep, humility carved into his eyes. Still, her walls held firm. The tension broke when the twins rushed onto the patio, carrying 2 slices of cake. "Look, Mama," Imani said, her cheeks smudged with frosting. "We saved you some." Isaiah offered Ethan a fork. "You can have some too, if Mama says it's okay." Amara hesitated. Ethan waited, holding his breath. Finally, she nodded. "It's fine." The 4 of them sat together under the patio lights, sharing cake and laughter that seemed impossible hours ago. For the first time, the mansion didn't feel like a prison to Ethan. It felt like a home. Later, after the twins were asleep in the guest room, Amara found Ethan lingering in the hallway outside their door. "You shouldn't get too comfortable," she warned. Ethan's gaze lingered on the closed door. "I didn't realize how much I missed this. Family. Bedtime stories. Smiles. You don't get to miss something you threw away," she said, her voice trembling. Ethan turned to her, his voice low, raw. "I didn't just throw you away, Amara. I threw away myself. I thought I was making the right choice for my career, for my image. But it left me empty. And seeing them today, Isaiah, Imani, it's the first time I've felt alive in years." Her eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. Words don't erase pain. No, Ethan admitted. But actions can heal it. Please, let me show you I've changed. For a moment, she almost softened. Almost. But then she shook her head, retreating into the safety of anger. Good night, Ethan. And with that she walked away, leaving him in the dim hallway, clinging to the faint hope that tomorrow might bring redemption. Backhand index pointing right. Do you think people can truly change after breaking someone's heart? Could you ever let them prove themselves again, or is trust gone forever? Share your perspective in the comments. High voltage. The next morning dawned gray and heavy. Storm clouds lingered over Atlanta, and with them, a quiet tension settled in the Whitmore estate. Amara had planned to leave after breakfast. One day, that was all she had promised. Yet as she watched Isaiah and Imani chase each other through the garden, their laughter echoing off marble walls, something inside her hesitated. Ethan stood at a distance, hands in his pockets, just watching. For once, he didn't try to control the moment. He let them be children, unburdened. Amara noticed that. But peace never lasted long in the Whitmore world. It happened in seconds. Isaiah had darted too close to the fountain, chasing after Imani's ribbon. His foot slipped on the slick stone, and with a cry, he toppled forward, straight into the water. Isaiah! Amara screamed, dropping the tray of coffee she carried. Before she could move, Ethan was already sprinting. He dove into the fountain without hesitation, the icy water soaking his suit. Strong arms scooped the boy up before panic could take hold. Got you, buddy, I've got you, Ethan murmured, pressing Isaiah against his chest. The boy coughed, sputtered, then clung to him, trembling. Amara rushed over, her heart pounding as she touched her son's wet curls. Are you okay, baby? Are you hurt? Isaiah shook his head, still clinging to Ethan. The sight stunned Amara, the way Isaiah's little hands clutched Ethan's jacket, as though he instinctively knew safety there. Ethan, breathless, met her eyes. He's fine. He's safe. For the first time, Amara saw him not as the man who left, but as the father who showed up. Later, when the twins were dry and resting, Amara found Ethan on the terrace, wringing water from his sleeves. You didn't even think, she said quietly. He looked up. They're my children, Amara. Thinking never entered the question. Her arms folded tightly. You say that now. But where was this man 6 years ago? His voice cracked. Dead. He didn't exist. Back then I was blind, selfish, arrogant. The man you needed, he wasn't alive yet. It took losing you, losing everything, to kill him and make room for who I am now. Amara's chest ached. Do you hear yourself? You expect me to believe you've changed just because of one act? Because you jumped in a fountain? Ethan stepped closer, his tone trembling with emotion. Not because of one act. Because of every second I've lived since you left. I wake up every morning with regret gnawing at me. I see their eyes in my mind, even before I knew they existed. I hear your voice the night I walked away. I live haunted. And now, seeing them, holding Isaiah, Amara, I can't let the story end here. Not when I finally see what life was meant to be. Tears burned in Amara's eyes, but she fought them back. You don't get to walk in now and erase 6 years of struggle. 6 years of loneliness. Ethan's voice softened, desperate. I'm not asking to erase them. I'm asking to honor them, by being here now. By making the next 6 years better. Please. Let me fight for them. For you. Silence hung heavy between them, broken only by the distant laughter of Imani in the garden. That night, as Amara tucked the twins into bed, Isaiah whispered sleepily, Mama, is he my daddy? Amara froze. Imani chimed in softly, he looks like us. He saved Isaiah. Is he? Amara's heart splintered. She smoothed their hair, her voice trembling. He might be. Isaiah's eyes fluttered shut. I like him. And just like that, the walls Amara had built so carefully began to crack. Unable to sleep, Amara wandered to the library where Ethan sat by the fire, staring at an old photo of his father. He didn't notice her at first. His face was raw, vulnerable, the mask of power stripped away. When he finally looked up, his eyes glistened. I used to think my father was unshakable. That he was the man I had to live up to. But now, I realize. I just want to be the man my children need. That's all. Amara's voice broke, tears spilling despite her will. Do you know how many nights I wished you would show up at the door? That you'd say those words? And every night you didn't, I had to harden myself. For them. For me. He stood, his own tears falling. Then let me show up now. Let me stay. Not as a billionaire, not as some Whitmore heir. Just as Ethan. The man who loves you. The father who loves them. For the first time, Amara let herself cry in front of him. And in that fragile moment, the years of pain and distance seemed to collapse, leaving only the raw truth of what could be rebuilt. Amara turned away, wiping her tears. I don't know if I can forgive you. Ethan nodded, his voice steady despite the crack in it. Then don't. Don't forgive me today. Just let me prove tomorrow. And the next day. And every day after. Until you can. Her breath hitched. The man standing before her was not the arrogant fool she once loved. He was broken, humbled, and reaching for redemption. And for the first time, she considered letting him try. High voltage. The following morning was bright, the storm clouds finally broken. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows of the Whitmore estate, casting warm golden hues across the marble floor. Amara awoke to the sound of giggles in the hallway. She peeked out to see Ethan crouched on the rug, letting Isaiah and Imani climb over his back as if he were their horse. He wore an old sweater and jeans instead of a suit, his hair messy, his laugh unguarded. He looked human. Not the billionaire the world knew, not the man who had shattered her once, but a father rediscovering joy. Something in her chest softened. Over pancakes, Imani leaned forward, syrup on her cheek. Mama, can Daddy stay with us today? Amara nearly choked on her coffee. The word, Daddy, hung in the air like a fragile glass ornament. She glanced at Ethan, whose eyes brimmed with unshed tears. He didn't correct them. He didn't press. He just smiled gently and said, only if your mama says it's okay. The twins turned to Amara expectantly, their little faces full of hope. She hesitated, then whispered yes. He can. The children cheered, and Ethan closed his eyes, a single tear sliding down his cheek. Later that day, as Amara sorted through boxes of Charles Whitmore Sr.'s belongings in the library, she stumbled across a sealed envelope with her name written on it, in the late patriarch's sharp handwriting. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Amara, it read. If you are reading this, it means I am gone. I knew my son was a fool when he let you go. I also knew he would never understand the value of love until life stripped him bare. Don't punish him forever. I saw the way he looked at you. No Whitmore legacy will ever matter more than that. If you can, give him the chance to be the man I believe he can become. For you. For the children. Tears blurred her vision. Charles had known. He had seen what Ethan had been too blind to recognize. That evening, Amara found Ethan in the garden, helping Imani chase butterflies. She handed him the letter without a word. He read it, his lips trembling, then pressed the paper to his chest. My father, Ethan whispered. Even after everything, he believed in me. Amara's eyes softened. So did I. Once. He turned to her, voice breaking. Let me earn it again. Please. For a long moment, the only sound was the twins' laughter drifting through the air. Then, slowly, Amara nodded. One step at a time, Ethan. For them. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was hope. Weeks later, Amara allowed Ethan to visit them at her modest home in the city. He didn't arrive with gifts or grand gestures. Instead, he came with humility, helping Isaiah with his homework, teaching Imani how to ride her bike, cooking dinner with Amara in her small kitchen. Day by day, brick by brick, he rebuilt what he had once destroyed. And one night, as they tucked the twins into bed, Isaiah sleepily whispered, I love you, Daddy. Ethan's throat closed. He kissed his son's forehead, whispering back, I love you too, buddy. More than anything. Amara watched from the doorway, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. The wall she had built for 6 years finally crumbled, not with force, but with steady love. Months later, they returned to the Whitmore estate, not as fractured ghosts of the past, but as a family. The gardens were alive with spring blooms, and for the first time, Amara didn't feel like an outsider. Ethan stood beside her, his hand slipping gently into hers. No cameras, no tabloids. Just a man and a woman who had weathered storms and chosen to try again. The twins ran ahead, their laughter echoing through the halls of the old mansion, filling it with life once more. Ethan turned to Amara, his voice tender. I can't undo the past. But I promise, for every day we have left, I will love you, and I will love them. That's the only legacy I care about now. Amara's lips curved into a soft smile. Then maybe, just maybe, this is the life we were meant to build all along. And as the sun dipped behind the Whitmore estate, the broken pieces of their story finally fit together, not perfect but whole. If someone who once broke your heart returned changed and truly willing to fight for love, would you give them another chance, or walk away forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories of love, redemption, and second chances.